Greetings, welcome back to Old Ways Rising Farm YouTube channel, where it is April and black fly season. So I'm going to do a lot of this in this video, just ignore that. Okay, but since it's black fly season, we can start planting some of the early things such as this asparagus. I'm helping my family put in a new asparagus bed against one of their outbuildings here, and I'm going to show you how to do it. This is a thing that a lot of mythology has been kind of erupted around. It is a little bit more complicated than planting a lot of your garden vegetables, but it's not obtuse, right? And I'll explain why we're going to do everything that we do as I go through it. The first thing we need is a trench about 1 shovel deep, okay? I'm going to go ahead and get that all set up and show you the finished trench, and we'll start from there. Hey, magic, we got trench, okay? Now, I dug this trench, and I just took a bar and loosened up the soil. You can see some kind of poke holes here. And as I always do when I have a trench, is I'm going to put some compost in the bottom. This is a perennial plant. You are going to never see the bottom of this trench again. Put some compost in it. This is your one and only time to do it right the first time. Okay? So there we go. We've got some compost in our trench. Now we're going to mix that in. Standard double digging procedure, as you've seen me do quite a few times on this channel. Dirt's a bit stony and bony down there. It's okay. That's why we have the compost. Okay. Now while I'm doing this, I'll explain a couple things. The crowns of your asparagus, which are healed into this pot, need to be a couple inches below grade. Only a couple inches. But if you just go and bury them, wow, is that stony and bony down there. If you just go and bury them, asparagus suffers mightily from transplant shock. So you'll kill them. Okay. And asparagus has a peculiar root pattern. It's not quite a fibrous root, and it's not quite a taproot. It's what we call a heart root. Okay? So I knock these.
That's not in frame.
This is not in frame?
Nope.
How about now?
Back.
Back?
Yep.
Good. Okay. Thank you, hon.
Mm-hmm.
So if I not pull these out of the soil that they're healed into, put that pot aside, and this rubber band off. This is how you usually buy these starts. You can see that their root is kind of like a cluster of taproots. Okay. This is the crown where you can see the little buds coming out. Am I in frame?
Yeah.
This
Put
is
it
the
out.
crown. Huh?
Put it out a little bit more.
Out more. Okay. This is the crown where you can see the buds coming in. And these are all these cluster of taproot-esque things. Okay? But since there's more than one, it's not a taproot. So this is the big reason why we need this trench, because I need to mound this soil here in the middle of it. Just like so. And then I need to drape these roots either side of that mound and allow them to spread out. Okay. This one's a little runny. I'm not sure if he's going to make it. This is a nice one. So can you see how I'm allowing the roots to drape? This is all in frame, hon? Here?
Yep.
Along this mound.
That's better.
Huh?
That's better.
roots drape either side of the mound. I'm going to give them, oh, not quite a full foot of distance between them, because they're not all going to make it. As I said a minute ago, asparagus hates being transplanted. So not all of these are going to make it. Okay? You see I have them perched. Here's the crown, here's the roots. Roots are draped either side. And I will just keep going along. Now, this is the whole point of the trench. The trench exists so that we can make the mound in the middle. The mound is now amended soil. Now I'm going to take more soil. This has previously been amended because this is an old flower garden that we're putting into vegetable use. I'm going to cover up the roots, but not the crown. Okay? So just like that. They have the dirt nestled around the base, but I'm not covering up that crown. It's okay if you get a little bit of dust on it. That won't hurt anything. But you daresn't bury it. Okay? So I'm not filling my trench all the way in. I'm just bringing the soil around the roots right to the base of the crown. Okay? Now this is where I'm going to leave it for today. That's all we're doing. Obviously I'm going to do the rest of my trench and plant all these roots, but this is where the project ends for your first round. We're going to cover this up eventually, but we need to get some growth out of it. Okay? So I'm going to cut it off here. You get the idea for this first part. I'm going to plant the rest of these little plants, and we're going to be about a month or so, depending on how fast they grow. Sometimes they'll shoot up and grow really well in a couple of weeks and you can go for. Sometimes it'll take a month. It depends on how bad the transplant shock has been for them. So I will let you know just how long it has been in the next clip, and I'll show the rest of this process. So we are back at this asparagus patch. I know it's only been a couple of seconds for you, but it's been, a healthy month or so. We are in the middle of May, and you can see these crowns have started to grow. Now, notice this is the one that has grown the most, these two, right? It's, foot-ish tall, okay? Notice how spindly and weak the growth is. This is typical of transplanted asparagus. They hate transplant. They suffer severe transplant shock. Okay? Now, first thing, do not pick anything the first year. Okay? You must allow the plant the full photosynthetic potential of this first year growth. Okay. We have not covered up the crowns yet, and that's okay because we're still in early spring. We haven't had any scorchers. The sun's still low enough on the sky that we're not going to burn out the top of those crowns. But if we let this go into summer, when we do get scorchers, when the sun does go into the sky, high in the sky, we will burn out the little exposed surface roots and the exposed crowns. They're not resilient to sunburn the way that the photosynthetic leaves are. So, what we need to do at this stage is kind of a compromise. We need to get some coverage over top of these crowns while we still have the cool weather. But we still need to make sure that we allow for easy growth of the ones that are not as far along. So we're not going to fill in the hole with proper soil. We're going to very lightly, very gingerly, very carefully mulch them with some compost. Okay. These ones that have some vigorous growth coming up, we will completely cover the crown, but make sure, like that little piece wanted to fall, make sure it's arranged so that the tips of that young growth are still sticking out and are not covered. Okay? You be very gentle with this. Now, over here, we have some that have some little nubs starting to grow, but are not yet above the ground. So those, I'm just going to very carefully place some soil so that it's around the sides, just barely dust over the top, and let it go at that. Okay? So we're not filling in the trench with this. We're just adding a nice mulch. Big hunk and clod. That can just go off to the side. Totally fine there. Oop. Stay away from that. Okay.
Don't be hasty, little hobbit.
Indeed, indeed. Okay. So I'm going to go all the way along with this. And this is going to conclude the spring planting steps. Now, that will be enough of a mulch that it will protect these crowns. So I'm going to let these grow until they are full height and fully leafed out into that, highly dissected asparagus foliage. Okay. They're not a fern. I don't want to use the word ferny, but it's probably the most recognizable term for it, right? When that is fully developed, it is at its full height for this year, and the crown stops producing new shoots. Okay? At that point, and only at that point, will I fill in the trench. Okay? When I fill in the trench, I will again be very, very careful that I don't break off any of these. Even breaking off one or two of these sprouts can severely harm the ability of that crown to establish, build up energy restores, and be ready to go for next year. Okay. I'm not going to keep holding this video and wait until I fill the trench all the way in. You know how to fill in a trench, right? I just want to show these early steps of how you get them established. That final fill-in, that will probably be July until I do that final fill-in. Okay. What I do want to add, though, is that in your second year, if you want to cut a little bit, don't cut more than one stalk per plant. Give it that second year to really build up its root system. The first year, all it's doing is overcoming the transplant shock. It's not really building itself up to get raring to go. The second year, it will build itself up to become really strong plants and then be raring to go the third year. If you cut it the second year, you're not going to kill it. If you cut it the first year, you'll kill it. Okay? If you cut it the second year, you're not going to kill it, but you're going to prolong that wait period until you get your first bumper crop. So I strongly recommend that you don't cut more than one stalk per crown. And I really would recommend you don't cut any stalks per crown the second year. Just be patient. Give it that second full year to establish. Okay? And then in your third year, you'll have a really rip and raring to go, aggressive, happy asparagus patch. Then you can go ham and cut your favorite vegetable. Okay? So I hope this helps. I hope that it shows how to properly establish it. Once these are full height, be careful not to break them off, but you don't have to be quite as over the top easy as I am being still. Okay? They'll be relatively tough by that stage. You can get away with a lot more. But again, that's not going to happen until July, right? This skiff of compost, this is where I'm stopping for the spring planting. That will just finish it off, get the soil in, refill the trench, and it'll be ready for next year's growth. Next year, they will have plenty of stored energy from this year to push up through that soil. Okay? Third year, they'll have plenty of stored energy to give you a good crop. So, I hope that you have found this helpful. If you have, I would be most grateful if you gave it a thumbs up to help the YouTube algorithm know that you found it helpful and show it to others. And I will see you next time here at Old Ways Rising Farm.